Lunch has been sponsored Le'ilu Nishmas, Shem Rochel Bas Shlomo Zelig Halevi and Yaakov Ben Moshe Aleim HaShalom. So what we thought actually it was Wendy's idea, and that is to introduce some of the Chesed organizations that we have here today. And just a quick example how we'll do the introduction. So I'll start off with the SOSA Medical Project. I'm Harry Hopkinstein from Hopkinstein, and we do medical aid hospital plans for people that can't afford hospital plans, as well as various other projects, raising money, helping people raise money, self-help projects for different medical procedures, hospital food, etc., etc. And so since it was Wendy's idea to do this, Wendy.
Roseanne will introduce us.
Roseanne.
Okay, so I'm Roseanne Sack. This is Rebbe and Wendy Hendler from Cholim. We are an anti-abuse organization for the Jewish community. We run a helpline, we do a lot of educational programs. We're currently launching a helpline to deal with trauma around the war. So we've been upskilling all our volunteers on trauma debriefing and counseling. So yeah, that's enough for us. Yeah.
Fantastic. Got the idea. I just mentioned Roy is here. He wants me to mention for him. Roy here from the HOD, one of the oldest Chesed organizations in South Africa. I remember we have some former members, I'm sure, the HOD of Springs or other HODs. We have also Natalie, do you also do Chesed? Basically your own thing, what do you do?
So it's been running for quite a number of years, actually, even before my father passed away, but then since he passed away, it's in his memory. We collect food that many of the delis and bakeries might throw out or not have where to give, and we have a pretty modest operation of families and individuals who we supplement with Shabbos food, a lot of bread and sweet stuff, sometimes fruits as well, and it's kind of started extending during the week or so. Sometimes if people call me if they have extra things to distribute.
Fantastic. The Nishmat Max Miller, who I remember, and you all remember from Delmos, we used to live in Springs. Just to mention, many of the people here are volunteers for our SOSA organizations. I'm not going to introduce everybody. Michelle, would you please tell us, Michelle Goodman, what you do?
I'm Michelle Goodman, and we run the Dear Link, helping cancer warriors. We take with Auerbach for being our advisor on certain halachic issues, and we do what we call chicken soup, is to help the warriors feel better in whichever area. We're outings, we do meals, we do everything at our center. We can just feel good kind of work. We give them lifts, we give meals, we do a lot of talks, a lot of education, a lot of counseling.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. And also Rabbi Auerbach, besides giving the Shiur, there's also an important Chesed organization. Would you tell us about it? Based at Osamayat.
It's an organization called Chesed Rachamim, and actually it started, I want to mention his name because he just passed away. Mayor Emanuel. Do you remember Mayor Emanuel? He just passed away about 2 weeks ago in Israel. He's the one who started it, and when he made Aliyah, so he asked me if we would take it over, and basically it's we give out every month, we give out money to people, every month about 50 families, and then Yom Tovim more, and that's basically, that's what we're doing, and the needs are growing, but Baruch Hashem, we've been managing until now.
Right. Thank you everybody. If I left anyone out, so we have this chesed, so organizations, thank you very much. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Rabbi Auerbach to give us the word of Torah.
Okay, I'd like to thank my good friend, colleague, Wingren, for giving me the opportunity to be able to speak here and to I really feel very privileged to be amongst so many people here who are involved in various different areas, but it's all areas of chesed, of kindness, and it's really a privilege to be. And you know, our Chachamim say in the parish of Lech Lecha, so it says V'heyeh bracha. So our Chachamim say that V'heyeh bracha means that the first bracha, when we say L'kei Avraham, L'kei Yitzchak, L'kei Yaakov, but we end it only with Avram. When we say the bracha, it's familiar. We say Baruch Atah Hashem, Magen Avraham. Even we don't say Magen Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, but the bracha is going to end with you, only you. With you, we end it. We seal it off with you. So there is an idea that the end of times, which hopefully we're getting nearer and nearer, is going to end with chesed. It will be chesed that in the end of the day will bring the geula. B'cha chosmim. With you, it's going to be sealed. The end is going to come through chesed. That's going to bring the geula. So, you know, all the chesed that we're doing, of course, the unbelievable chesed that we see in Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, which are unimaginable. It's incredible hearing the chesed that they're doing, but all the chesed that we do, all accumulates, and please God, with all of this chesed, we should see geula, we should see redemption in the end. I want to first speak about the concept of doing chesed is really based upon two dimensions. The one is the obvious one, which I think everybody realizes. V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You shall love your friend like you love yourself. So from there, we learn out that we have a mitzvah to do kindness, because you love your friend like you love yourself. So if you would be in a dire situation, you would want your friend to help you. So v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You should love your friend like you love yourself. You want your friend to do for you, so you do for him. That is the basic obligation of chesed. And then there are various different chasadim. There are various different ways of performing kindness. But it all is a fulfillment of the ahavta l'recha kamocha. You should love your friend like you love yourself, and therefore do kind things for your fellow Jew. However, there's another dimension, which maybe is not so well known. Another dimension of doing chesed is based upon the verse that it says, V'holachta b'drachov. You shall go in his ways. Or there's another pasuk that says, Acharei Hashem Elokechem telechu. You should follow God. And the Talmud says, how could you follow God? God is so mighty, so strong. He's like a fire. How could you follow God? How could you get near him? You can't get near him, right? So what does it mean you're going to get close to God? You're going to follow God. Uboted bakun, it says. Not only follow him, but cleave to him. How could you cleave to God? So our Chachamim say to follow his attributes. To follow God's attributes, to resemble God, to imitate God. And then our Chachamim say that we have different sources of the various kindnesses that God does, and that God did. Right? After Adam and Chava sinned, it says God garbed them. They were embarrassed. So God gave them clothing to wear, right? So God clothes those that need clothing. God, in this week's parasha, it says after Avram died, God came to Yitzchak to console him. So we see that God consoles the mourners. So just like God consoles the mourners, we should console the mourners. In the end of the Torah, it says Moshe was buried. Who buried Moshe? God buried him. Yeah? God buried him. He was a Cheved Kedusha, right? So we learn from there that it's a mitzvah to go and give cover, to give honor to the deceased, take care of the burial, everything else that is necessary. So we're fulfilling, resembling Hashem. So there's two aspects whenever we do chesed. Whenever we do chesed, there's the aspect of to help another Jew, to help another person, to love your friend like you love yourself. And then there's another dimension that it's resembling the Rabbanu Shalom, which is an amazing thing. It's an amazing concept, something to think about. That we're doing a chesed, so not only because we're helping this other person, but I'm emulating God. And if I'm emulating God, I'm becoming more elevated myself. Because I'm resembling the Rabbanu Shalom. So I'm becoming a finer person, not only in the aspect between man and man, but in man and God. So that's something to think about. I think that's a very special dimension. Now, I chose to speak a little bit of the laws, halachas, of visiting the sick. And here we see, we also resemble God when we visit the sick. Why? Last week's parsha. In last week's parsha, it's a good time to speak about this, because just last week's parsha is Vayera, so it says, Vayera Elov Hashem, right? And God appeared to Abraham. God appeared to Abraham. And it doesn't say that God said anything to him. Always, when God appears to the prophet, he's giving the prophet an important message. But it doesn't say here God said anything to Abraham. So our sages say, Rashi says, he didn't come to say anything to him. He came to visit him. He came to be Mavaka Cholim. He came to visit Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu had just undergone at 99 years old circumcision. So on the third day, it's the most painful. So Avram, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God Almighty, came from way up above, and he came to Avraham Avinu just to be with him. Vayera Elav Hashem, and Hashem appeared to Avram to visit him because he was sick. And here we learn, you want to resemble God, you want to get close to him, you want to follow in his ways. If somebody is sick, visit that person. Vayera Elav Hashem. Hashem visited Avram. You want to be like God? Visit somebody who is sick. So this is one of the sources for Bikkur Cholim, for visiting the sick. There's another pasuk as well, but here we see that God did it, and that we are imitating, we are resembling Hashem when we visit the sick. What exactly is the way in which we fulfill the mitzvah? How do we fulfill the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim in the perfect way? In other words, what are we giving the person that's sick? What are we doing when we visit the sick? So there are 4 dimensions in halacha. 4 dimensions in halacha. 4 reasons and 4 benefits that we want to benefit the person that is sick when we are visiting the person who's sick. This is important because not everybody knows this. So first of all, we just said Vayera Elav Hashem. Hashem appeared to him. He appeared to him. So God was showing that he cares about Avraham Avinu. God was showing that he's concerned. God was showing it, Avram, I know you're having tsar. I know you're in distress. You just went through a circumcision. And I'm being mishtatev. I'm taking part in your tsar, in your distress, which is a very important dimension of chesed. All of you are doing it. And all the various chasadim that you're doing, so it is because you are concerned and you care about the people and you want them to know. Because when a person knows that somebody else cares for him, it alleviates their distress. It alleviates their pain. It's an amazing thing when human beings are not just physical flesh and blood, but we have feelings, we have emotions, that's part of our makeup. And if somebody shows that they care, that they're concerned, so then it means a lot to the person who is in distress. The actual fact that somebody comes to do a chesed for somebody, you're mishtatef in their tsar, you're taking part in the distress, and we're alleviating the distress when we do that. And therefore, even if you don't say anything, Vayera Elav Hashem, as I said before, the model for Bikkur Cholim is Vayera Elav Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't tell him anything. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and is there, and the Chazal call it Kabbalas B'nei Shechina, he was receiving the face of the divine, so that's a great pickup for Avraham Avinu. That's going to make Avraham Avinu feel better. So, one of the mistakes that we make when it comes to certain chasadim is that we don't know what to say. We feel we have to say something. Not always we have to say something. You go visit someone that's sick, you go out of your way, and you go someone who is ill and they're home, or they're in a hospital, and you go out of your way and you visit them. So that is one aspect, one dimension of Bikkur Cholim, of visiting the sick. The second is to see to it that the needs of the person is taken care of. This is very important. Okay, maybe sometimes it applies and sometimes it doesn't apply. But to go and see to it that their needs are taken care of. Okay, we have hospitals now, people are. But as we know, even with our hospitals now, you go visit someone sick and they're ringing the bell, the nurse doesn't come, and there's problems, and there's difficulty with the food being brought to them, and medicine being brought to them. Sometimes mistakes are being made. It's always good when you visit someone to see to it that their needs are being taken care of. That is the second dimension of visiting of somebody who is sick. If everything is fine, that's wonderful. And we're not saying that we are here to intrude and be invasive, and take the place of the doctors. We're not. But nevertheless, it is very important to visit the sick, to be able to see that their needs are being taken care of. Maybe the medical is being taken care of. Maybe the medicine is taken care of. Maybe they're not comfortable. That's a big thing. Lots are not comfortable. Maybe there's bed sores. They don't even notice it. So when you go visit the sick, won't you try to inquire and see, are the needs being taken care of? And when somebody comes to visit, so then the nurses, the doctors now are alerted. There's a story of Rabbi Levine. I'm sure all of you have heard of the great Rabbi Levine, a book that was written about him, Tzaddik in Our Time. If you haven't ever read that book, read it. It's unbelievable. The biography of Rabbi Levine. He was Ish Tzaddik Haya. He was the great tzaddik in Yerushalayim. Passed away in 1969. Came to Yerushalayim, I think maybe 1910, 1915. And he was an unbelievable tzaddik. And he epitomizes chesed. You want to see somebody who epitomizes chesed? It's Rabbi Levine. So Rabbi Levine was once visiting a hospital, and a friend of his said, "Oh, Rabbi, what are you doing in the hospital? I didn't hear that any of your relatives are sick. What are you doing over here? I didn't hear your relative is sick. Is their relative sick?" So Rabbi said, "No, I'm not coming to visit my relatives. I'm coming to visit this Yid that I know that he has no relatives to visit him. And I'm visiting him because I want the doctors to know that Rabbi Levine went to visit him. So, he doesn't have any relatives, but now they're going to give him the proper attention because Rabbi Levine has come." That's the idea of going to make sure that the person is getting the proper attention. So that is the second aspect. The second two are maybe a little bit, maybe you're not going to find this in the secular world, but it's very important to pray for the person that is sick. You go to the sick person, so you daven, so you pray for the person that is sick. And you'll say, well, okay, I can pray in shul, there's Tehillim groups, and people are saying Tehillim, it's unbelievable the amount of Tehillim that's being said, and being said for people that are sick, but it's not the same. You know why it's not the same? Because our Chachamim say the Shechina rests at the head of somebody who's sick. Right? The Shechina is resting by somebody who's sick. And that is why when you visit somebody who's sick, you're not allowed to sit low. You're not allowed to sit lower than because the Shechina is there, and therefore you can't sit lower than the Shechina. It's a lack of respect to the Shechina. There's something a person who is sick, and especially, serious sickness, you go this way, go that way, they're closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu than the average person. The Maharal speaks about this. I'm not going to go into great length about it.
But
the Shechina,
on the sitting,
yeah.
In the hospital bed is often higher than
so you have to stand, or at least sit on the same level. You have to be careful with that. Shechina b'marashoysav shel ha'chayla. The divine presence is there. A chayla is feeling closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A chayla has a more realistic view of life and death. It's close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, it is a much stronger prayer you daven in front of a chayla. Of course, we daven for a chayla anytime. It's helpful. But it's much stronger, much greater to daven where the chayla is. And the Shulchan Aruch says that if a person goes and visits the sick, spends time with the sick person, but did not pray for that person, they did not fulfill the mitzvah Bikkur Cholim properly. And interestingly, when you daven for a sick person, if they're in front of you, you don't have to mention their name. Because it's obvious you're davening for this person, and you're davening right here where the Shechina is, so you don't even have to mention his name. When you're not in front of the person, then you have to mention the person's name, his name, the name of his mother. So when we go visit the sick, let's remember to be mispalo, to pray. Okay, you could pray in your own language. You could pray your own expression. Or take a tehillim with you and be mispalo for a chayla, for a sick person. That is one of the ingredients of visiting the sick. So visiting the sick is to give chizuk to the sick person, Visiting the sick is to make sure that their needs are being taken care of. And visiting the sick is to daven, to pray for the person that is sick. And one thing which Chachamim tell us, which is a wonderful thing when you go visit the sick, is that Chazal say, when you visit the sick, I don't know exactly how it works, but we take away 1/60th of the sickness. You take away 1/60th of the sickness.
So 60 people
1/60th, what?
So 60 people go away, but the
Yeah,
rest
60
is...
people go, yeah. So we take away 1/60th of the sickness, and so that is, so that those are the 4 dimensions, 4 aspects of visiting a sick person. So it is a tremendous mitzvah. Now, if you can't go visit the person, it's just not possible for you to go visit the person. Is there any worth? If you call the person, if the person has a phone, is there any worth in that? Yes, of course. But you don't have all 4 dimensions. You don't have all 4 dimensions. If you call them up, you might not be able to find out if they're getting the medical attention. But you will be mishtatef. You will show that you're thinking about this person. So you will be mishtatef. You will be taking part in that person's welfare. But you won't be able to daven in front of him. Maybe you can find out about the welfare if you speak to doctors, you speak to nurses over the phone, if that's possible. And I'm not sure if you take away a 60th if it's on the phone. I'm not sure about that. Okay? I'm not sure about that. But if you can't, then it's also still complimentary, because you are speaking to the Cholim, and you're giving Chizuk and giving strength to the Cholim, to the sick person, right? So therefore, so that's the second best. There is an interesting halacha, very interesting halacha, that let's say a person has 2 chasadim in front of them. Let's say, and I can't do both. In other words, let's say there's someone, lo aleinu, who's mourning, who's sitting shiva, nichum avelim, and there's someone who's sick. I can't do both. Okay? It's getting close to the end of nichum avelim. It's already getting close to the end of it's the 6th day already. So if I go console, I won't be able to visit the person who's sick. If I visit the person who's sick, I won't be able to do nichum avelim. So if you can't do both, interesting. So which one do you do? Which one do you think you do?
6.
Everybody would say the sick. No. Nichum avelim. Why? Okay, this is maybe a talk on nichum avelim. This is not what I was talking about. But when you do nichum avelim, you're doing a chesed for both the person that was nifter, for the neshama, and for the ones that are mourning. You're doing double chesed. Amazing. And with the sick, it's only one. However, if you could fulfill both, which one do you go first? The halacha thinks of everything. Which one do you do first? Then you do Bikkur Cholim first. Why? Because you could daven for him. So like he might need you davening right away. Or might take care of it, he might have something that he needs. So therefore then you go first to visit the sick, and then afterwards nichum avelim. It's important also when it comes to nichum avelim or Bikkur Cholim that we remember that we have to be doing the chesed for the person. Gemilas chesed means I have to be thinking the needs of the person, not my need. I also might have a need to visit someone. I have my own personal, let's say, agenda. I want to visit this person. I want to console them. But we always have to be thinking of the person. We have to be thinking the one that we're giving. This is very important for all of us. We have to remove ourselves from it and always think about the recipient. Is it good for them or not? And when people, if it's not visiting hours, then don't visit. People are sitting shiva and they say, please don't come at this time, even though it suits me to come at this time. They're not going for me, I'm going for them. So we always have to take that in consideration in all the areas of chesed, to be thinking of the chesed that we're doing. So these are the 4 dimensions of Bikkur Cholim that I wanted to share with you. For the mitzvah to be complete, so we go to give support, we go to take care of their needs if necessary, we go to daven for them, and when we go we actually take away from their sickness. These are the 4, and when we do a chesed, any chesed that you're all doing, so fulfilling v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, and we're also fulfilling, resembling Hashem, getting closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Auerbach for his chesed, just to come here and give us
My
Shiur.
pleasure.
That Hashem, it should be a merit that the Chatufim, the captured Jews and Gaza should be released to help Hashem.
Amen.
The Swiss, we have planning the next year, around about the 4th or the 5th of December, so we'll contact everyone at that stage. We're now going to do some benching. Auerbach will lead us in the benching.
Sorry, some have on their phone. It's in the front over here. A few pages on. If anyone would like, it's also in here, and then you guys need to say an Alamichya or a brand Fashos. It's a card over here.
Okay?
Pass it around, maybe someone wants over there behind you. Thank you.
Okay, if everybody can answer. Rabbi Sain Yivarech.
Yishaim Adonai Mevarach Mi'atzav Yad Elam. Baruch Eloheinu Sha'achalnu Mishlov Tov Chayinu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'zonos ha'olam kuloi l'tuvai l'chein v'chesed v'rachamim kunis elechem b'chol basar k'ilei olam chashrei t'may b'notzam l'echos halonu v'yal yefta halonu